Okay. Hello, everyone. It is the fourth Wednesday, and on the fourth Wednesdays, I always do the Ask Me Anything. It can be about pet issues you're having. It could be about wildlife behavior that you saw that was a little weird. Maybe you saw something on Facebook, but it can be just anything. If you just want to say hi, go ahead and throw it into the chat, and we will. Uh, yeah, we will discuss it. So let me know that you're here. Say hi in the chat. And if you have any questions, please drop them in, and I'd be happy to answer them. Time to quiet down the phone. All right. So one thing that I've been thinking about lately is Halloween, because one thing that happens a lot is a lot of people will have their dogs out and not expect their pets to kind of freak out when they see the uh, strange things going on, the various people in masks. Animals are basically um, they don't generally like new things, and because new things generally are bad for them, usually is the case. So most animals do not like different things of that nature. Their instinct is to either run away from it or attack it. Usually there's a fight or flight kind of response, depends on which type of dog you have or individual you have. I have both at my home for their instinct. So it's always good. The best way to do this is kind of get them ready to in a calmer environment. You can wear masks around and then give them treats, and then they start associating masks with the candy and the food. This is that way they don't have quite the initial full-on emotional response. That's just a simple process of desensitization. So I definitely advise everybody to start doing that with their animals. Looks like we have at least one person looking in. This is the fourth uh, Wednesday. Ask Me Anything. Go ahead, throw anything into the chat that you'd like, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have related to animals, behavior, and training. Um, so go ahead. Oh, it looks like we got a couple. Also, if you just want to say hi, go ahead and put that in the chat as well, and I'll be happy to answer that. But as I was saying, most animals don't like new things. It tends to they tend to get frightened very easily by changes in their environment, and even just slightly new uh, uh, stimuli, such as say a person in a mask. A lot of people will do the assumption that, well, they can smell me. Smell doesn't travel as fast as light, and even then they'll still be confused because they're not used to seeing that or smelling that smell and seeing that sight. So there usually will be a little bit of a situation there. Um, so I definitely advise people to get their animals ready for the masks and such beforehand. Maybe have the masks around, put them on and off, let them realize, oh, these are things that happen, and then associate them with some positive rewards or positive influences situations. Um, it's very common for animals to get upset with new things. I always like to use the example in my lessons with the office policy. Even humans are prone to just being mad at new and different things. And if you don't believe that, change one policy in the office and see what happens. See how everybody reacts to that slight change. Just because we're kind of wired to avoid change, usually the change is not worth the risk of whatever dangers might come with it. So usually things do not like change at all, or at least initially we'll be leery of it or scared of it. All right, this is the fourth Wednesday. Ask Me Anything. If anybody is here watching, just let me know. Just say hi in the chat. Also, you can uh, put your questions in there if you have any questions, anything's come up with your pets at home or any of your animals, or maybe you saw something weird. I've been getting a lot of actually, I've been getting a lot of text messages regarding American Coots of all things. So if you have seen these. These are a type of bird that are migrating through town, and I think that we're just seeing them more often now because of here in Garden we have that new water area, the wetland area that has been put in south of town, and that has caused probably a slight migration change. So you might see the American coot. If I can find a picture, I'll throw it up online here real quick so that some people, if you see it, it is a normal bird and it should just be around. So it is actually native to the area around here. So let me know if you have any questions. Go ahead, drop those into the chat so that I can answer them. Looks like we do have a few people watching right now. Glad for you to join us. So let's see if I can find that American coot picture. Do. All right. So the American coot, it looks a lot like a duck, but it's not. But a lot of people, as I said, have been seeing these around here in Garden City, particularly just out and about, really. So let's see here. All right. So this is what the bird looks like. Let's see if I can get it to pull up onto the screen here. We're going to do a little play with technology and see if everything will be happy and going with it. So if you see one of these birds, they are perfectly natural to be around. We're probably seeing, as I said, we're probably seeing more of them in town just because of that new wetlands area just south of town. And let's see here. That's source. Do. Okay, we're going to show that. There it is. There we go. So if you see these birds that they're known for that kind of like piebill thing on the tip of their beak, white beak with a black right here at top, and then a bit of black down at the end. They have been spotted all over town lately, but it is perfectly normal and natural for them to be here. So don't worry about it. Just if they're in a spot that you can't really deal with them, my advice would be get a hold of wildlife and parks because they're the ones who can legally actually do something about them since they are wildlife. Here's what they actually, let me show a picture of their feet too, because their feet are what really look a little different. So let's see here. All right. They kind of have a broader feet because what they do is if there's a lot of plants on the water kind of floating, they will spread the pressure out so that they can actually walk on them a little bit. So if you see one of these guys running around, they are perfectly normal for our community. All right, once again, this is the fourth Wednesday Ask Me Anything event. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free, put them into the chat, and I will be happy to answer them. Looks like we got a few people. If you just want to say hi, let me know how you're doing. That also is perfectly valid. So, all right. With the holidays coming up, we always have a lot more puppies coming around just because of the holiday season. They're actually once a while ago I did an article that I wrote planning on talking about the woes of the Christmas puppy, but once I actually did this, since I'm very much a science based person, I love just seeing I love research and seeing what research anybody has regarding a situation, and it turns out I'll finish this story, and then first I'll say hi to Grant. Hi, Grant. How are you doing? And if anybody has any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer them. As I was saying, there's a myth of the Christmas puppies, and like a few months later, that there's going to be a giant influx. When they actually did studies, they found that there was no March uptick in general. There's no massive surge caused by the Christmas puppies. And then when they did research and actually did studies and asked questions, what they found were people actually with the Christmas puppies tended to have them longer. They had a better success rate of staying in the home. And the reason for that is they weren't impulse purchases. Usually the Christmas puppies, as it turns out, are actually planned months ahead of time. And also the fact that it is a gift, and people have more emotional attachment to it. That is what they found in the actual studies. So really what the study really proved is impulse buying animals is usually the number one issue. So whatever you do your research. Plan ahead also. Like, don't just give that puppy out. Maybe give some lessons wherever you are. Pre-purchase the training packages to go along with that puppy, and also maybe even go to your vet, see if your vet has some type of gift plan or gift card situation. So if you gift it to somebody, I always made a joke, there's never such a thing as a free pet, and that's a whole truth, because even if you get the pet itself and you don't have to pay like the breeder fees or anything like that, there's going to be the medical cost, the feed, the training involved. There's a lot to go in to any when you take in a life form to care for of any kind. So Grant said, "Hey, how are you doing?" So I'm doing pretty good out here, trying to stay warm. We had a few clients today, so we mostly walking, and luckily it wasn't that bad today. I got out to do those tasks long before the rain came and hit. One of them was a long-time client that I've been working with actually before we even opened the business as a full-time gig. So we've been working with them since, I don't even know how long. But that dog has come a long way, and she used to really hate seeing me, but now I can go in alone. Mom, Dad don't need to be there, and she just has bright eyes like, "Oh yeah, where's the treats? Let's get this going." So I always enjoy when I get to see her, because I do dog walking. I didn't initially plan that as part of my business plan, doing dog walking and dog sitting. However, since I do specialize in animals that are aggressive or problematic in those, or reactive, let's say reactive, because there's a whole plethora, or have anxiety issues. I found that a lot of my clients were asking if I could, so I did add that to my business packages. So if anybody does need that service, I do offer that if there's time and I'm not booked up for it already. Usually that's because, as I said, I deal with a lot of animals that aren't necessarily the best to shove in at the vet for a weekend here and there, because of whatever personality issues that they are working through, basically, whether it's reactivity or fear and anxiety issues. So I get a lot of those clients, and since I already have the relationship, it kind of just makes things go a little bit smoother. Plus, usually I do it in the home, so the animals are much happier with the scenario as a whole. So, all right, if anybody has any questions, go ahead and put those into the chat. We'll be happy to answer them. I'm excited. I am going to start putting out videos again. Kind of got derailed with the world as it is, if you will. But I am planning to start getting back on the bandwagon on getting my advice vlog out. My next one I'm planning on doing is going to be an interesting one regarding a deaf animal and the changes that we had to do because of that handicap. Looks like we have a few more people in there. If you feel free, go ahead, say hey, say hello, put any questions you have into the comment box, and I'd be happy to answer them. Make sure you're actually at the comment box of the stream itself, and not just a friend share or something along those lines, I might not see them if you're commenting on something that is shared somewhere else. But feel free to drop that in, and I would be happy to answer any questions you have regarding animal behavior or how things work, or if you just want to say, hey, how are things going, or if you're one of my clients and would like to give me an update. I love hearing all that from everyone. So looks like we do have a few people in there though. But so oh, okay, yes. So I am finally doing the. Somebody saw that I'm doing the Chamber of Commerce ribbon cutting. I've been around for a little bit, but I've been a member, and I just haven't had time to do the ribbon cutting. We actually planned on it a couple times, but just schedules went wonky, and then the world went crazy. But we are finally doing that. We are going to be down at the FinUp Center, or not the FinUp Center, the FinUp Park, and we will be there. If you have any dogs that are not reactive and get along well with others and you want to come by, feel free to come by. We love to have you there. The more the merrier. And we will be basically just doing a simple little ribbon cutting. I don't have a physical place per se to do that at, so we're just using the park, which is one of the parks that I actually use for some of our reactive works, because it gives me a lot of distance and usually is very busy in the spring and summer times. So I like that park as well, and it's just nice and scenic. But we're just going to do that. I'll be answering some questions with the Garden City Chamber of Commerce, and if anybody has any questions on those businesses, go ahead, check out the Garden City Chamber of Commerce Facebook page and website. My Buckman Best Behaviors is a member of that, and it does a lot of great work for the businesses and entrepreneurs and businesses big and small here in the Garden City area. Have you thought about putting an op-ed about considerations for buying holiday pets? I have, and I might do it again, an opinion editorial. I might do that. It's been a little while since I've done that. I should probably do that probably in November if I wanted to get out in time for people. But really, yeah, there's a lot of people that are very against the holiday pet thing. I'm against the impulse holiday pet, which really is the bunnies. A lot of people just see them in the store and go, oh my God, it's cute around the Easter time and such. But when I did research, there's not much. There's no real evidence that points to the holiday puppies being dumped in March, because, as I said, they even went through and they interviewed people who got puppies. They went and checked back in with them for the next few years, and they did it with a few thousand. They even went through records of shelters, and they saw no actual uptick around that time. Any upticks that they found actually more were correlated with basically the breeding seasons, the seasonality breeding trends of animals, more so than human purchasing trends. But I could definitely do an op-ed piece on that. I could talk about that for a while. I did quite a bit of research on that when I wrote that article. I actually wrote an article already once, back when I worked at the zoo. That was been 2017-ish. Oh yeah, gotta love the science. That's one thing that I always want, is I want evidence proving to me that there's a reason to do the things that I'm doing. I'm more the engineer side, if you will. From I take the sciences and I put it in an application type situation. But everything I do is based on science, and I'm very science oriented. So that's what I want. I want evidence kind of showing what works and what does not work. Actually, I did see something from the International Association of Animal Behaviors and Consultants. There was an article that came out recently of an unfortunate training situation where they were using more traditional methods with choke chains, and unfortunately the trainer had ended up killing two of their clients within a very short period of time. And it got me thinking back on that, like, because I am a crossover trainer. I started more traditional, then it'd be what called balanced, and then, but basically now I'm more of the science side. There's no reason we need to use a choke chain, and if anything, I find that in most situations, because they're they're actually more difficult to use. You can actually have bad side effects. Um, the But anyway, with that situation, I was actually thinking about, we get these weird thought processes in our head where it's right. We've been told by people over and over again it's right, but then when you think about it logically, it's not. In this situation, when I heard about the two that died, and not that is a very rare occasion. Somebody has to be really using the choke chains incorrectly, but at the same time, I was thinking about it, and the the simple fact is metal is not going to give. The flesh will give before the metal. So if you use too much force when using those tools, there is always a good a chance for injury, because metal versus flesh, metal will win every time. And in this situation, that is what happened with those dogs. I don't know if what the trainer was doing specifically. I'm not going to go into that because that's all hypothetical. But what we do know is she was using choke chain methods, and the two pups died during the training process. In both situations, she was complaining that they were tough clients and they were pushing her a little bit more. From now, with my perspective on the whole situation, oftentimes when the situation gets stressful, what I do is I actually tend to step back. I sometimes wonder what it looks like when I have a dog that's just going crazy and I'm just kind of sitting there, just staying still, taking breaths to make sure that I'm calm in the situation, because me getting angry will not help the situation. I tell that to my clients as well. If you're training and you're getting frustrated, you got to just step back, walk away. They don't understand that they're making you upset in that way. They don't have that concept. You have to think about it like a toddler. A toddler is just acting out. And you can't be mad at the toddler for acting out. You can get upset with the situation, but you can't be mad at the toddler. So you can't be mad at the animal for doing the same thing. They're not doing it on purpose. I hear that a lot. Oh, they're doing it to make me upset. Very, very rarely do they find that is the case. Usually there's just some situation, and that's their method of communicating with the world around them, that they're upset with the situation, barking, snapping, lunging, things of that nature. So it's just always important to get nice and calm around your animals in those situations. But it was a very unfortunate story. I can't remember. I want to say it was out of Missouri, but I can't remember exactly. Um, and in a number of nations, they've actually made it outlawed, where you can't use shock collars or choke chains and things like that, which is um, which is interesting, because a lot of people who are opponents against going into a positive reinforcement based system say that it doesn't work, or make claims that it doesn't work, and then but then you have these other nations where that's the only option, and they are making it work. They're making it work for their canine units. They're making it work for their CNI dogs. They're making it work for across the board. I know, for example, in England, if a officer is caught using punishment-based shock collars and things like that with their canine unit, they actually will lose their license to be a police officer, in which case they can't be a cop in the entire nation there. But that's a different situation. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and put those in to the chat, and I'd be happy to answer them. For anybody else who's come by, it looks like we've had a few people coming and going. This is the fourth Wednesday Ask Me Anything event. I'd love to answer any questions, get into nice discussions. Maybe you saw something weird, something interesting out and about. Maybe you saw something online that was uh, that you're like, wait, is that a normal behavior of an animal? I'd be happy to answer those questions. Just drop me a line and I will gladly discuss those for you. All right. Looks like we got the Smiths. Smiths, we're working. I hope everything's going good with the Smiths. Their pups. We're just working on some desensitizing them. They actually are very good pups. They just not all dogs are happy about seeing all dogs in the dog park, but we're just making sure that everybody is just a little bit calmer in that situation. As I said, with the what's the cutting edge of animal behavior analysis? Well, I could guide you to a few papers. I've been listening a lot to the individual who helped create animal behavior analysis. Jesus, what is his name? I've just listened to like 5 or 6 talks by this gentleman, and there's another one I need to actually listen to as well, that I unfortunately had to miss just due to, well, for the reason I had to miss was actually a good reason. I had clients, so that part wasn't too bad. It is, what is his name? I would, let's see here. I'll have to go to the Facebook group to remember his name. I just know him by his first name. Jesus. Well, if you're looking into this, basically I would say look up Ken Ramirez, for one. He is a top-notch trainer. He's in charge of the Kieran Pryor Academy right now. He's much more in the application side, but he does do a lot of research as well. But he's mostly in the application side of the animal behavior analysis. And then one of the other ones that I always refer to everyone to is Susan Friedman. If you go to them, you'll pretty much be branched out to all the other people in the animal behavior analysis field. And let's see here. It was Dr. Jesus Rosales Ruiz. Yeah, Ruiz. Yeah, he's actually one of the founding individuals for animal behavior analysis, and I've been listening to a lot of what he has to say, and his talks are very mind-opening because they make you think about behavior from different angles, in particular just whole different ways of thinking in those regards. So far so good. Haven't been able to go to the dog park because of the weather, of course. I figured that, but that's okay. We'll be going out. I'm working on a lot of behaviors lately where we're working with desensitizing animals, whether it's from 2 animals in the same house or 2 animals and random people. As I was saying earlier, I do recommend that people, if they have masks around, get their animals used to seeing masks and desensitizing them to them. So basically, they see a mask, click, reward, because Halloween is scary. And I do not advise people to take their dogs out for a Halloween walk. Keep them at home. Unless you've done the prep work, you're going to have a bad day. Just leave them at home. And a lot of people, especially the kids, will want to go and they'll be like, oh, but the puppy wants to come with us for the Halloweens. And although this year we might not be doing it, but who knows what it's going to look like. We'll all figure that out here shortly. But even if you're doing the trunk or treating, or if you're doing regular trick or treating, whatever, taking the dog with you for this one-time event that it has not been prepped for very rarely ends well. I would suggest, if you do, bring very high-end rewards, lots of treats, lots of like chicken and things, just getting them used to. Oh, and basically every time they like act like they're scared, give them the reward. Now, if you've done your prep work ahead of time and you've got them clicker trained, I don't have anybody in here. They're all upstairs. Okay. They're all upstairs enjoying couch time. But if you have them clicker trained and you can make the mark every time something happens, you can at least let them know that, hey, right there, that scary thing wasn't so bad because here comes the reward right after. So, uh, it basically, really, the system is very similar among the different stimuli because the process is going to be the same. Doesn't matter what the stimuli is. The only thing that's going to matter is what level of reaction to the stimulus, and how can we control that power of the stimulus. Can we use distance? Can we use uh, something else to mitigate or lessen and start from a smaller point to help the desensitizing process? Because one thing that I've seen a lot of people do is they take their dogs out for these Halloween things, and so now their dog has PTSD because they went out and suddenly, for the first time ever, uh, yeah, somebody was talking to me once about, yes. But anyway, they see those, all the goblins and everything, and they get a little scared. So they end up coming back, and if you have that traumatic of an event, you can have a PTSD issue where it's a more permanent state in the back of their head. Uh, was it me that you were talking about quieter clickers? Yes. So clickers, I like them not loud and noisy. However, have been times where I couldn't use them because the animal themselves already had a negative connotation to this whole situation. Um, so you could use a quieter clicker, or there's no magic to the clicker itself. The clicker is just a tool. It is a bridge or marker is what we call it, because it bridges that gap in time between when the animal does the thing and when they actually can get the reward, because timing is everything. And if you can't teleport the treat to their mouth. But as I was saying a little earlier, I'm actually going to be putting out a video regarding a deaf dog. Well, the clicker doesn't work on the deaf dog because they can't hear. So we're actually using a flashlight for them, because a bridge doesn't have to be a sound. Sound is easy, and what we like about sound is that the dog can be looking away and click, and then, oh, they don't have to be looking at you. But as long as you have some way to signal to them that whatever happened, this is why the treat's coming afterwards, that is all you need. Now, the issue with a quieter clicker is that they don't hear it as well. So you can use your own voice. So I'm thinking back to one dog in particular. It was a pair of Yorkies, and one of the two just had just was phobia on everything. This was one of the just scared of everything kind of mentality. This dog was just frightened. So the clicker came in, and we ended up having to stop use the clicker. So we used the voice. The reason, though, that I like to use the clicker instead of the voice is just because people are much more conscious when they're learning a new skill, and when to click this click is a new skill. When to say good doesn't feel like a new skill. So we need to really focus harder with clients when we do that. Usually what I do is I get clients to start using the clicker, get the timing right. They start thinking along timing, and they're doing this with this new thing. And then we transition back to using verbals or other tools, or you technically can even use your own body language as the marker, but that's a higher skill set. So I don't usually get to that point with most clients per se, depending on what we're trying to work with. So you can use quieter clickers, or you can use your voice, but you have to be very, very specific. And the problem with your voice is you have to start coming up with words that are not, or words and tones, I should say, that you don't use on a regular basis. Because when it's a very common thing, then it loses its value. So I tell people a lot when I do hand signals, for example, even though this is a command, not a marker, I don't point. For the same reason I don't like saying okay or something like that with the dog, because you say okay so many times, and how many times a day do you point at things? The dog sees it, and nothing. You're not actually asking the dog to do anything. So what we want is a very concise, very accurate and consistent. That's the real key. Consistent uh, marker. So if you are using a quieter clicker, make sure they hear it every time it goes off, which means you have to be in a quieter environment, which is one of the reasons why I don't like those. Or if you're going to use your verbal, I don't say good. I don't use actual words. I kind of turn it. I always say drill sergeant it up. So drill sergeants, when they say things, they take out all the consonants. So like kind of idea. So with this, I would do good or yes. So you take out the e, take out the oo, and that's all it is. Just good. Because when you shorten it up, you get very consistent sounds coming out of you, and also you don't go around telling people good, good, good. Well, maybe you do, but I don't know. But if you're specifically using only that tone and that new word, if you will, with the training process, then you can get away from using the clicker as well. The clicker is not magical. It's just that it creates a more consistent things in most environments. But I have run into animals that we just don't have. You can technically work any animal out of the clicker issue if you are consistent. But first, the thing is, you then have to create a desensitizing program to the clicker itself and then move on. And usually in most situations, if I'm running into an animal that is that phobic of that clicker sound, then I don't have time to go through a desensitizing process and then that. My clients have paid me money and they need me to get to the issue at hand, which is maybe charging the door or something like that. We don't have 3 to 6 sessions on just working on desensitizing, or spending a month really is what we'd probably be doing. Just click, treat. It's kind of the gun dog training, but you'd have to do it with the clicker itself. So usually if that's the issue, then we'll skip the process. We're going to hope that everybody can get this next level of skills, and we're just going to focus on those. We're going to focus on that next level of skills instead to try to get that working really well. But as long as you are consistent with that good and etc., then you will be you'll still get the same results with the clicker. I think I answered that question. I kind of went all over the place there. You said it. Yep. Yep. And if anybody else has any questions, go ahead and put those into the chat, and I'd be happy to answer them. I don't have any of my doggos behind me today. They have been enjoying. We got extra couches upstairs, so they've been enjoying. Anytime people are watching stuff up there, they just like to chill near there because it's nice and calm and relaxing. And also I think the food bowls were out still, so they'll be out maybe down here in a little bit. All right, if anybody has any other questions, feel free to put them into the chat, and I'd love to answer them. Whether it has to do with pets, if you just want to say hi. And I'm trying to get Grant Allen to come back to Garden City. I do believe I should shout out. I think he has $5 on on some type of card. I think it was a Little Caesars card. Yeah. I'd like to point out there is a Little Caesars right here in Garden City. All right. If anybody has any questions or anything they want to put, just go ahead and drop those into the chat, and I'd be happy to answer them. Samson says hi. Hi, Sammy. Those little terriers. High energy. All right. Got about 20 minutes left. Well worth trip for sure. Yes. Back in the old Garden City. And for anybody who is seeing this that is not in the area, I do travel up to 150 miles radius of Garden City. So I pretty much cover all of Southwest Kansas. I even go dip into Oklahoma and Colorado on occasion. Um, but I'd be happy to help you out. The methodologies I use, as I kind of have stated, are science based, focused on positive reinforcement. They follow animal behavior analysis, which is closely tied to applied behavior analysis, which, if anybody knows what those are, anybody who's a psychologist or a child behaviorist or any type of behaviorist or therapist might understand those. The animal mind and the human mind, there's a lot of similarities. And the more we take away, as I like to point out, the anthrocentric barriers, we tend to look at ourselves as top notch or the best or whatever or unique. And then the more we study, and actually, if we take away those ideas, we're like, oh, maybe that's not as unique as we thought in nature. Guilty as charged. So, they've been able to use these operant conditioning and applied behavior methodologies to even train spiders. It started with they actually were looking into how the spider jumps, but they had to use high speed rolls of film, which is very expensive to get that. So they can't just use high speed film on the spider 24/7 and hope they catch it while it's jumping at a good angle so they can see the mechanics of it. But so what they did was they actually trained it to jump on cue. It did that, and then they were able to get the footage that they needed to figure out how they get so much force out of their leg jumping. It's basically it was a reverse bioengineering kind of study. But when they did that, now that I know other zoos started following suit. They started actually training the spiders around different facilities. I know Disney does it just to get them to do something else. It would also, they could actually bring them out safely during a talk so that the spider wasn't feeling threatened. And by safely, usually the handlers have always been safe because most of those spiders are not that dangerous to humans, but they get scared and then they get injured. So that's what we mean by safely. I'm going to stand up here. One of my light ballasts just started whining at me, which usually just means he's just adjusted just slightly. Okay. All right. Now, if anybody has any other questions, go ahead and put those into the chat, and I'd be happy to answer them. I mentioned a bird earlier that's been coming around, the American coot. I think I don't know, there was about a half dozen calls regarding that, just to see if it was normal or new, or people thought things might have escaped from, I don't know, some farm. But they are wild. Here in Garden City, we got a new wetland area just south of town, and basically that's just attracted them. So we're going to see more of them, I think. I think that's why people haven't seen them in the past and are now seeing them in more numbers. They've always been around, just not quite as prolific. All right. If anybody's here, it looks like we have quite a few people. Go ahead and say hi in the chat, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. If you just want to say hi and let me know where you're at in the world, that also works as well. I do this every fourth Wednesday to answer any questions people have. And if you have any other questions outside of that time, feel free to text me, email me, call me. I'll just put my contact information into the chat here. Whit Buckman at bbbehaviors.com. And the phone number is 620-805-9429. I actually started getting, and also I accept messages through Facebook and things of that nature as well. I actually have to get a hold of a client who right at the beginning of this started texting me. So once we get done with that, I will be contacting them back. I'm pretty much between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. I'm pretty much available 7 days a week. If we need to set up a session, I also do online sessions as well. So in which case I'd be right here in this office and we'd be talking with you wherever you are. I got one client in Buffalo, New York, and they Apparently the trainer said that their dog was untrainable after one session, and then they were actually suggested to contact me by one of their veterinary friends. They are a doctor, and their their friend is a veterinarian who used to live here in Garden City, and um, so she contacted me, and we've made leaps and bounds progress. It was a complete myth that her dog was untrainable. She just needed to look at it from a different angle, and coming in, spraying it with a spray bottle and choking it out was not the method that dog needed. Just as long as you have treats, he was happy to go avoid other dogs or stop barking at other dogs as long as we came up with a rule system and an alternative behavior. You'll hear me say that a lot, an alternative behavior. So I come up with different things for the dog to do instead of the behavior that they are doing, such as going towards other dogs, i.e., lunging. We ask them to come to us instead. And then eventually you do that consistently enough. And then next thing you know, they look and then they come to you before you even ask them to, just because they know it's coming. Um, sometimes it takes more time than others. Just depends on how strong that emotional tie is that the animal has with, or how much endorphin rush that individual animal is having with the lunging, uh, going towards behavior. All right. If anybody has any questions, feel free to put those in the chat. I'd love to answer them. We got about 10 more minutes. Thank you for the questions that we've had and the updates. Thank you, Smiths. Love hearing everything's going good. Have you come across a dog that is untrainable? Okay, yeah. So I've never actually met an animal that is untrainable. I've met people that said that. I've both in the zoo world and in the domestic world, uh, but I've never seen one untrainable. One of my friends was even able to train a jaguar to take eye drops. It would run into a chute and then present its eyeball to get eye drops, and they had to do that because it had to go through glaucoma surgery, and they couldn't do the glaucoma surgery until they knew it could get eye drops twice a day, because that's what you have to do after you have the glaucoma surgery. Otherwise, your risk of infection goes through the roof. So everything is trainable. The thing that I like to ask is my clients is not whether or not it's untrainable. Are we willing to put in the work? That is the question. Some things will take longer and you need more time. And if you don't give it that time, then you're going to be set up for failure. I've also run into situations where there is actually a meme that I had to laugh at. So usually, if we're finding failure, it's either because there's lack of information, maybe there's some data points that I'm missing that just we're not quite getting. Sometimes 3 weeks into the training or 3 sessions into the training, then somebody says something, I'm like, that's important. That's why we're slowing down, and then we change it, and everything goes smoother. But as far as an individual animal that is untrainable, I have not run across it. If everybody's willing to put in the work and put in the time, then every animal is trainable. And the other part is stay consistent. Sometimes people, it's not a fault of them. How do I want to say this? But they'll cave in for whatever reason, whatever. It might just be easier to just let the behavior happen, which is totally fine. That's why I adapt my training to the individual family. What do you need? What is important to you? If a behavior that we're working on, a side behavior that we're working on, is not important, yeah, I might not like it in my house, but it's perfectly fine if they do it in your house, so long as it's safe or whatever. Maybe you don't mind the barking kind of idea. But you have to put in the work. So, I'm going to see if I can find that meme that was out there. But anyway, yes. So Anyway, yeah. So no, you can train any animal, and even with the cats, it's all the tricks can be finding the reinforcer. However, everything likes food. There are some dogs that are less, they're more picky. Let's say that they're more picky. So you have to really look for the individual, the small individual uh, 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 aspects of it. But uh, where was I? I'm like trying to do the research while also doing this. Um, you have to find the right reinforcers, and you need to also discover what the antecedents are. That those are the true two tricks, really, with regards to that. Um, Once you find the antecedents and you have the right reinforcers, any behavior can be changed, anything can be trained at that point. But it's a matter, and then it also is a matter of how much work are you willing to put in uh, as well. Anyway, the meme that I'm looking for is it's the dog on the phone, and it says, "Mr. Trainer Man, the owners didn't do any of the work at all." So yes, that one makes me laugh sometimes, but usually in most cases, most of my clients do put at least in some work. A lot are harsher on themselves more than I am, uh, with that regard, though. Um, but yeah, as long as everyone's putting in the work, any behavior can get changed. Um, and it just does, the severity of the behavior might take longer, in which case, usually, a lot of times with some clients, what we'll do is we'll actually start spacing out our sessions. Once we get everybody on a good solid base, then we might stretch them out even further, just so that more time can be done with the static. Okay, we're just doing this desensitization thing for about a month or two now, and then we'll check back in. Um, the one that I was walking today, she was, I believe the story was she was a bait dog at one point in time in her life, and we've got her to the point. Will she enjoy being around other dogs? No, that probably not. But we've got her to the point where she can at least go on a walk and not try to go after every other dog that she sees. She can actually chill, relax, and redirect back to us, which is really what we are looking for in those situations. But yeah, everything's trainable. The number one thing I think I hear every day is my dog is stubborn. I think I hear that about, I'd say at least 5 times a day with regards to that. Any tips on getting a parrot to let you handle it? She likes women, but does not like men as much. Food reinforcements too? Yes. In fact, I do have a parrot client that I worked with. Now that one was an unusual situation because parrots are very particular animals. They are prey animals. That's one thing that people need to realize when they shift from dogs to bunnies to parrots. Dogs and cats, they're a little easier because they're higher up on the food chain. They get a little less afraid of new things. If you're a prey species, a lot more things are frightening, and you're going to deal with things a lot less. So new people, new things. Also, birds. I mean, birds. They don't like new things, and they don't like anything that draws attention to the flock. Hello, Kevin. And so you need to find out what the bird likes, and you need to find a way to give him the treat, not from your hand, but find a way to, like, maybe a consistent location, like, "Hi, how are you?" And then a treat shows up maybe on this countertop at the exact same spot, but he needs to start figuring out that there's food there. Or maybe it gets dropped into his cage, and like a favorite treat of his. Sunflower seeds are very addicted to birds. You just got to make sure that they are in the right amount, because if they are too much, then of course they will. It's a very oily and fatty food, so if they get too many sunflower seeds, then that can be a problem with their weight. Um, Different fruits. The bird that I was working with, actually, I ended up not working with it while I was there because it would just shut down because it was so afraid of it. It did not enough people came into the house to desensitize it to strangers. So it would just be like, I'm done, and I'm not. I'm just going to curl into this ball and hope nobody sees me every time I showed up. So we ended up doing a video consultation kind of style where they would do what I tell them to do, record what they're doing, send it to me. I give feedback, send it back, and we went back and forth that way because me being there obviously was an antecedent that ruined the training session, if you will. But you being there, if you can get that bird clicker trained or mark trained, just, hey, and then a good thing happens every time you show up, or even just make sure that a good treat happens every time you show up. Eventually they get a lot calmer. Do not try to make them feed from your hand. That's a mistake a lot of people do. You always toss it to them first. The distance can get closed over time as they become desensitized to you, and maybe eventually they'll take it from your hand, which is the ultimate trust point. Which is, I think, is why people always insist on coming over. Oh, I want them to feed from my hand. Humans are obsessed with animals feeding from their hand, but if you just create that positive thing. Now, I'd have to, before really giving you full advice on how to get that, she does like saltines. Okay, be careful with the salt, but that shouldn't be too bad. So maybe on a desk by it. She takes food from a hand, no problem. Then we'll walk away. Oh, that's fine. Let them walk away. Free choice creates trust. It's when people are like, no, you have to come take it from, you have to take it from me. You have to stay by me. Let it just happen slowly. I would just, if they're willing to take it from your hand, just let them take it from your hand. And then if they come back, then they get another. But they can come and go on their own. I'm trying to think how often do you see it? I'm not sure if this, where you're seeing, I'm not sure where you're seeing the bird. So the more often you see it, the faster this process will go. Because if they see you 2 or 3 times a day, then they'll eventually just be like, okay, you're part of the flock, whatever, not a big deal. But birds can be tough because they're actually more, they can be more socially oriented, but that also makes things a little tougher at work every day almost. Okay, so yeah, honestly, just do that. And every time I would make it like a consistent thing. You see me, a treat is coming, 100%. You might have to ration out the treats just so that they don't get too much carbs or whatever, but 100%. You see me, you get a treat. You see me, you get a treat. Yes, you can go back there. And then anytime you push the bird, I would also give a treat. And by push, I just mean like maybe the bird doesn't like you coming within distance X of their cage, for example. So every time you do end up having to get a little closer and they do the thing, just to let you know, I would just be like, sorry, here's the toll. Just treat it like a toll. Like, okay, here's your toll. And eventually the bird will acclimate to you. Yeah, if you see them every day, usually you can do that. It's so long as the bird is used to all that noise and everything else like that, which actually that's is a great environment for a bird because they need so much stimulus and so much more. I would love to have a bird, but I have a Malinois who would think it would be tasty. I don't know, she's upstairs somewhere. Plus all the cacophony going off. Sometimes birds need their own break, things like that, because they, as I said, they're prey species, not a predatory species. But they need so much, and they can be so affectionate once they decide that you're on the in crowd. She'll walk up to one on the shoulder if she Let's see. Yep, definitely does that. Sometimes she'll walk up on the shoulder if she wants to every now and then. I got a story for that. Oh, she goes up on your shoulder every so often. Oh, then you're doing fine if she does that. Just let her do it, and then if she does it, give her a treat. Now, here's my story of why I will not allow parrots on shoulders in the zoo world. This did not happen to me, but uh, it happened to somebody I know, and I actually made it a rule. Birds were not allowed on, well, doves and things could be, but any parrot type thing not allowed on the shoulder because there was a macaw at a facility. I'm not going to name the facility, and the one keeper had it on their shoulder. It loved this keeper, but it hated another person in the facility. Maybe it looked like somebody that bothered them in the past. Who knows? But that keeper that it didn't like surprised him by walking down the hallway right past the door where this keeper was. And when things freak out, they lash and lunge at whatever is close to them because they're like, ah! Well, it bit her ear and actually split it all the way down in one bite. So they had to stitch her ear all the way back up because it just freaked out. So when I was a curator, I had a rule of no birds on shoulders because of that. They could be on the arm, they could be farther away, but nothing here. Just because even if you have the best relationship, if something startles them, a car backfires in the parking lot, they could do some major damage to your face just because of their fear reaction situation. But yeah, no, it sounds like you're on the right track. I mean, if you can clicker train, which is what I did with the client. So an example with the client. So this was a hand-reared cockatoo, and he had full reign of the house during the day, or while they were home, but it had to go into a cage when they left for safety reasons, obviously. And the husband was the last one to leave every day, so he would have to put the bird up. Well, sure enough, the bird doesn't like to just get shoved in the cage. So what we ended up doing, so the relationship between the husband and the bird started to suffer because of that forced captivity situation that was happening every day. So what we ended up doing was that bird actually liked applesauce. Or fruit sauces, like I think it was mango or some type of baby food type thing. And we would actually get it in a little, it was a turkey baster actually. And then we would feed it a little bit of that every time because that was what it decided it liked. So if you can find a higher end reinforcer than saltines, because saltines are okay, but sometimes fruit and things, but just be careful because things like grapes, too many grapes and things could be bad for the liver due to the higher iron content and things of that nature. But do your research if you decide to start giving other foods to the bird. Anyway, so what we did was we actually clicker trained the bird to target train, just like I do with the dogs, only we had like a little wand like this, and the bird would fly, go touch this at various places, and then from there, we taught the bird to go to different perches on command, and we taught the bird to go into the cage on his own, and he would get a great reward for going in. And then eventually, after all that, the husband, instead of having to catch the bird and then drag him in there, I think he does occasionally if he's in a mood, but for the most part, though, now all the husband does is ask the bird to go to the cage, and then he goes in. Everything's nice and calm, and their relationship's built much better. So, if you wanted to, you could take some of the techniques that we use with your dogs, move it to the bird a little bit. It's trickier to get the food to them if they don't want to take it from you. But you can use those, and you'd be surprised at how fast the bird starts to like to hang out with you because I would not. Also, same reason why I don't have birds on the shoulder. I don't do target training with my finger with a bird or with a big giant parrot of a bird, I should say. I might do it with a soft-billed bird like a dove or something, but I am not doing it with a parrot. They get something on the end of a stick, just in case they get upset and want to bite whatever it is that you're trying to ask them to go towards. All right, it looks like it is after 9 o'clock. That means that wraps this up. I will give about 2 more minutes. If anybody has any last questions, then we will. So then we will wrap it up at that point. Once again, we do this every fourth Wednesday. I put my information to get a hold of me in the chat. If you want to get a hold of me outside of the fourth Wednesdays or would like to schedule me to help with a pet behavior, because I do work with much more than just dogs. Have well over a decade in the zoo field as well. So yeah. So if anybody has any last questions, otherwise, I thank everybody for coming. Thank you for visiting with me today, and we will see you next time. Maybe we'll see you sooner. I know the Smiths, I'll be seeing them much sooner. All right. Just a couple more minutes. All right. Well, looks like that is the time marker I've hit. So you all have a great rest of your night. Have a fantastic Halloween, however it may look this year. But let me know if you need to get a hold of me. Bye now.